Okay, you stressed me out with this thing about the timing, but I'll do my best.
I mean, you have 20 minutes, right? So
Okay. So I'm Asimina Mertzani. Thank you for introducing me. And I'm coming from Imperial College London, and I'm gonna present this paper that we produced with Jeremy, which is on power-sensitive design using higher-order cybernetic patterns. And this all started when I was a young girl, and I really wanted to do AI because I believed that it can change the world so nicely. And I wasn't the first one. Actually, Wiener, a little bit before me, was hoping that machines could be used to release people from relentless and repetitive drudgery, and this way they could actually achieve more creative pursuits. However, when he was working in cybernetics, he realized that what is used as an element in the machine is in fact an element in the machine, which simply means that if humans are actually treating it like machinery, then they end up not thinking, not being humans. So we ask, how can we use machines to extend human capabilities and avoid the hazard of elimination of initiative, neuroplasticity, and all those things that make us be humans in the end of the day? And let me elaborate a bit on that and why it is actually more critical than ever. It is because the next generation of socio-technical systems comprise carbon-based natural intelligent components, to which we refer as N-life, and then they also comprise silicon-based artificially intelligent components, to which we refer as A-life. In the context of this paper, we focus on the human aspect of N-life and the computational, like software and hardware aspect of A-life, but we don't really intend to exclude anything. So both kind of like the NA-life environment comprising N-life and A-life is an environment in which all those components coexist, they produce content together, and they produce knowledge, and they are also evolving together. And this can be very helpful for humans, but unfortunately, so far it's not that good. And this is because actually we already observe a lot of asymmetries in the distribution of power. And those are posed for actually this transition from N-life systems to NA-life systems. And we distinguish them in three types. The first is just a legacy of the prior N-life system. So you can imagine there were already some asymmetries in the distribution of power, and then by moving into the N-life system, they were just transited there. Then the other type is actually caused by the amplification of pre-existing inequalities through the use of A-life as a proxy. And the third one is caused actually unintentionally because of our enthusiasm to use AI, because it seems so powerful, so interesting. We start using it so much without thinking how much power we delegate to it. However, the question is, what do we do? Do we give up? Do we stop doing AI? I wouldn't say no. I'm an engineer. We have to find how to use it for good. So what we propose is to do power-sensitive design, which is a new instance of value-sensitive design in which the value that we want to optimize against is power, and actually equitable distribution of power. And we introduce it as a conceptual model for empowering N-life communities with A-life capabilities. And we identified two objectives of power-sensitive design. The one is to maximize the power of naturally intelligent components, so the N-life, the humans in that sense, and limit the power of artificial intelligent components, so the A-life, to the one that can actually be helpful and beneficial for us. And the other objective is to maximize the equitability of power, of the distribution of power amongst us. So to do that, actually, we need to define informally what is empowerment. Actually, so we define empowerment as the capability of a community to exercise control over their social arrangements that those individuals in that community agree to comply with in order to actually hold each other accountable of. Social arrangements, for those of you that are not aware of them, are the sets of rules, roles, structures, procedures, and the ways that the socially constructed values that we choose to actually have in order to operate together. And we identify 5 dimensions of empowerment. The one is self-determination, the other competence, influence, knowledge, and meaning. I will not get into the details. They are all in the paper, and we can discuss them later. But let me move on. Okay, we have defined empowerment and power-sensitive design, and the question is, how can we achieve it? So we propose that we can use patterns of higher-order cybernetics to empower communities through the power-sensitive design. So let me briefly introduce some concepts of higher-order cybernetics and see how the different orders can actually be used to empower communities. So the first-order cybernetics refer to black box self-regulated systems which have an input, an output, and a negative feedback from back from the output to the input. And this way, they actually operate on their own as black box systems. And you can imagine that we can use them as systems in which we delegate some tasks, and we humans don't need to spend time on or think about them. You can imagine a smart thermostat system. It controls the temperature, and we can live our lives without really worrying about the temperature of a room. And okay, if it doesn't work well, we might suffer a bit. We might not enjoy the temperature, or we might spend some resources. But this is not detrimental, not ideal though. Then moving on to the second-order cybernetics, they actually include an observer in that system that sees that system and can affect that system. So this way, the system has some kind of responsive awareness, and it has two feedback mechanisms. One, the one that it already had from the output to the input, and the other from the observer. And you can imagine that this, again, it can help people we can bring the humans on the loop to give an instruction or affect the system whenever it's needed, but then on the rest of the time, they can live our lives good. Then moving on to the third order cybernetics, those are actually take this observer and say it's not only affecting the system, but it's also a part of the system. So not only affects it, but also is affected by it. And this way, both the system and the user and the observer co-evolve. So you can imagine that now humans become a part of the loop. Humans is in the loop. And this way, they can actually deal with issues that have to do with their interactions and their social constructions. Because by being a part of the system, but also observing it, they can understand better what is the influence in the system, how does it work, the opinion dynamics, and deal with each issues related to that. However, if the system actually, some individuals being part of the system, observing and participating in that system, can somehow also exploit the power, use it, and do it for catastrophic reasons. And then I promise this is the last order of cybernetics, the fourth order cybernetics. Here we move into an even more complex structure and more expressive pattern in which we take the whole system as it was with the observer in and out of the system, and we put it in a whole environment, in a system of systems. And this way, it actually, we give this kind of notion of embodied knowledge, which is an abstract kind of knowledge that exists because we cannot explain in words, but exists because we have been part of this. And this way, because it is like that, it is placed in a whole reality, in a bigger context, those systems can actually have a self-healing mechanism and can generate themselves in a way. And those actually, being more complex, they can help people deal with more complex problems as well, such as wicked problems, ideally, or at least try to mitigate them or have a better understanding, because by being in and out and considering it in the holistic manner, they can understand better what is happening and act on it. However, again, although it can be more powerful for humans, also these humans are more exposed to more dangers as well. So they can be disempowered in the sense that they might be misinformed or manipulated through that kind of pattern. So to summarize those higher orders cybernetics, we had the first order cybernetics, the human is off the loop, and it is just a self-regulated system. Then we take an observer that observes the system and can affect it. And then we take also this observer, we make it part of the system, so it is affecting the system, but also affected by it. And then we take that thing and we place it in a whole bigger context, in an environment that also other systems are are living there. And maybe it has you can start feeling that as we increase the order of the cybernetics, we increase the level of empowerment that we give to the people, but also we increase the potential of disempowerment. And actually to convince you about it, I will try to navigate you through a case study. Although in the paper we'll have 4 case studies for this presentation because I have to be short and brief, we will focus on one, which is the social media setting. I actually chose that because I think it's more easy to relate. So let's try to understand how patterns of different cybernetic order, different order of cybernetic patterns affect in a different way the system. So if we naively consider a social media, we can think that, okay, it's a first order system. I go on my phone, I play, I scroll a bit, I have fun, and then I close it, leave, and I continue with my life. And this way, this system was operating on its own, and I used that to amuse myself. But in fact, it's not like that. If we consider it more thoroughly, actually, us, the users, are part of that system. And I would not go to the straightforward thing that, okay, we are observers of the system and we can affect it. In fact, it might be not that ideal because by being a part of it, by signing in a platform, we dispose a lot of data. And actually, this way, those data are available to the owner of the platform, which means that actually this owner can affect us because has access, can affect and influence our behavior. So this way, we are not. It is a second-order system, but we are not in the place of the observer. We are in the place of the regulated system. However, if we really want to use them in a better sense and to be more aware of how do we use them, we can consider that it is a third order system in which we actually indeed are parts of and we are affected by it, but through the content that we give in and through our behavior and influence on the others, we also are observers that can affect it. So actually, we can use it in a way as a third order system in which we are observers and parts of it. And then, last but not least, if we explore it as a fourth order system, we can actually use this to consider it also in a whole global sense, and also consider that through that platform, we can actually empower communities in the sense that we stop misinformation or disinformation or manipulation, or we actually try to make this a public share space to share ideas. But actually, to do it, we need to really consider the purpose of that, if it is just to have fun or if it is really to share information and some knowledge between us, or if it's not. So at this point, I'll try to conclude by saying that we provided an informal definition of empowerment in terms of 5 cognitive dimensions, and then we tried to map that to systemic requirements for power-sensitive design. And having also defined power-sensitive design, we tried conceptually to translate that into higher order of cybernetics, and then to make it more tangible, we tried to explain and show in different case studies how the design pattern can be used to empower communities. And before giving the microphone to the chair, actually, or to you for the questions, I would really like to leave with this message that we should not give up. We should not stop using AI. But if we really want to use AI for good, we should consider the hard questions about AI, questions of power and empowerment, and consider them always when we design, develop, and operationalize an AI system. And one way to do it, I'm not saying that's the only way, one way is to actually use power-sensitive design and cybernetic patterns in order to do at least a step towards empowering communities to take control of the states of affairs that directly affect them. And at this point, I want to thank you very much.